Is it okay, Christopher, if I record you and maybe use this in a conference?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so first I want you to tell me why you decided to get this DNA exam.
Well, it started when I was little. I was working with the family tree with my grandmother, and she would tell me, come over. And I go, Grandma, where's our family from? And she goes, well, mijo, Mom and Dad were special dancers, and their side came from Mexico. And I would ask her, which part of Mexico? You know, because we descend from the land grants of 1767. That's through my grandmother, on her mother's side. And as she was telling me, I go, why is it that they came over here to this country? They go for better opportunities, and that we used to own a lot of land, like over thousands of acres, from several porciones, which is strips of land. And she'll tell me, oh, my mother's side of the family had 300 acres on the King Ranch when she was born around 1899 on December the 16th, and the ranch called La Reforma. And then as she tells me these stories, I'm like, who am I? Where do I come from? What's the significance of my last names? And she said, only you're the one who can know about it. So I'm researching, and then I watched the George Lopez show on TBS, and I saw Jessica Alba did it, and Larry David, and George Lopez himself, and I'm going, can I afford this test? So I'm talking about saying, oh, I want to do it one day, I'm so excited. And then one night I tell my mom, I go, Mom, can I borrow $300? Because it costs that much for the Ancestry by DNA. She goes, no, we don't have the money, it's for your school. And I go, okay. But when I got home, I checked the mailbox, and there was the kit with my name on it.
Wow. So why did Jessica Alba and George Lopez, did they say why they did it, or did they talk about the results of it on the show?
Well, Mariah Carey read the results to George Lopez on the time when he came
up.
up.
Shut up. Okay.
No,
¿Qué dijo?
And then when Jessica Alba did it, she was fascinated because she saw Larry David do it. Say, oh, you know, I've always wondered what I am. I know through some sources that I've read are like, they claim, oh, she's a Latina, meaning maybe she could be African, maybe Asian. Right. Nobody really knew. And she kind of talks about it, and when they read her results, she was only in 2 categories, which were Indigenous American, which is Native American, 13%, and she was European, which includes Spain, 87%.
That was Jessica Alba?
That was Jessica Alba.
Okay. Interesting.
And then when George Lopez did it, he was 55% European, 32% Native American, 9% East Asian, and 4% Sub-Saharan African.
Oh, that is... And what were their reactions? Do you remember that?
Jessica Alba was, wow, this is amazing. You know, like, she was kind of shocked at first, and then George Lopez makes the crack say, maybe your father was going down New Mexico and he saw Albuquerque and he thought Alba. You know, yeah. But let's see, George Lopez, he was excited. He was like, I'm black. I gotta put down black. So
that was his reaction.
That was his reaction. He goes, I can't believe it. I'm like an omelet. There's 4 ingredients.
So then what was your reaction when you read yours? Okay, I'm going to give it to you. Okay. So, just in case. What was your reaction when you read your results?
Mine was like, wow. And then I was like, I knew there was something special about me because my grandmother, one time when my mom wasn't around, we were in the car and she goes, Mijo, come here. And I go, yeah. She goes, let me tell you, when Mama Pola was alive, which is my grandpa's mother, she would drag me into the kitchen to talk to me about these secrets. And I go, what secrets were they? She goes, well, she said how her name Washington came about.
Okay.
And she goes, and I go, really? What about the name Washington? And she goes, well, she would pull me to the table and tell me in Spanish that Washington was from the Middle East, but yet someone in our bloodline was named Washington born in Mexico. And I'm like, really? And she goes, well, if you do take a DNA test, most likely it's going to be watered down. You're not going to have any trace because of the strong European blood I have. This is my grandmother telling me in the car.
The strong European.
The strong European. Because she was Spaniard, and she had French and German. Okay. She had all that mixed in there as well. But when I got the results, I was like, wow. It's like, I went to my mother, but first I couldn't connect the dots because every time I did blood work, it said African American under ethnicity. After I take the the blood work. It said African American. And my mom's like saying, no, mijo, you're not African American. You're a mutt. You're a mixture of white because of your father and then Mexican American because of me. I go, well, Mom, this is what they say on the paper.
So what blood tests are these that would say African American?
Well, they're just regular, to keep my cholesterol, keep me tested because my genetics show that my cholesterol can be high, but I'm very blessed that I haven't had a heart attack or heart disease because it's in genetics.
When you would get these results, they would tell you
at
the bottom of the ethnicity based on your blood.
It's at EGF.
Okay.
Which is like the test for your functions of the kidneys or the how they are, and it said African American. So I'm like, wow, that's like shocking. And then I remember I showed my father. He freaked out also, and he goes, he used to make fun of me kind of, but I know he was trying to joke around. But he said, I knew you always like fried chicken and water and sandia, which is the watermelon, and you always watched the Jeffersons,
Oh my God.
Okay. But I know he was doing it in a joking manner, but I come to think, I go, why am I watching these shows, I watch a lot of Latino shows, like, movies, like Selena, based on the story of my distant cousin from my grandma's side. I watch Quinceañera. I watch Mi Familia with Edward James Olmos as Paco. And I'm always wondering, I'm like, so that gave me also...
You were drawn to African-American entertainment.
Entertainment for some reason, like Tyler Perry.
So you didn't know why, but...
I never knew why.
Tyler Perry and...
He was real good.
Interesting.
I used to listen to Red Fox on his comedy or Richard Pryor.
Mm-hmm.
I used to listen to Richard Pryor a lot. Bernie Mac. So it was so when I got the results, I also showed my mother, and at the bottom where it says East Asian, I'm like, Mom, where did the Chinese come from? and she's like, well, let me see. And I showed it to her, and she goes, oh my gosh, where's the Chinese from? I go, Mom, it takes two. I go, was Grandpa Chinese by any chance, or Grandma's side? She goes, no, I don't remember anything. Mom and Dad never told us anything. Apa nombre, he was just puro mexicano. He had the genetics of the Indio. He was Indian. But other than that, I don't know.
So what was your mom was like, no, mijo, no eres negro?
No es negro.
Bueno, what was your reaction when you saw, what's the percentage of African blood it says?
I am 13% sub-Saharan African.
And what was her reaction?
She was like amazed. She knew I was a mutt, but she didn't know how it was going to be traced because nobody thought it could be traced in our family.
Right. No one thought it could be traced.
Because it was so watered down because it was from my great-grandmother the name Washington came from.
Right.
So
they think that it comes from that Washington.
Well, some say it does, but we don't know for sure because I know I wanted to tell my grandfather this, but he died 3 days after his birthday this year.
Oh, wow.
So,
sorry.
So I never got a chance to tell him, but before he died, he had slurred speech and everything, and so I couldn't ask him because he was like, and then his eyes were like real yellow. Yes. So I couldn't,
I'm so sorry.
I couldn't tell him anything, but all I remember is my grandmother told me this. But I kind of regret not asking my grandfather because I saw my great-grandmother, the last time I saw her alive was when I was 13, and then she passed away. And my great-grandfather died before I was born, so I didn't even get to meet him. And I regret not knowing Spanish at the time because my grandpa was the translator a little bit. But if my grandmother told me sooner about the history, I probably could have told my grandfather, and my grandpa could have translated it while we were there at the house because we would spend time with her when I was little.
Right. So this Washington, you said she, right?
My great-grandmother.
Was born in Mexico.
Well, she wasn't.
She wasn't?
No.
Okay. She was born in the U.S.
In Kingsville.
In Kingsville?
Yes.
What year? Do you remember?
She was born cerca between the years of the Revolution.
Okay.
Pero my grandmother told me she was born around 1916, 1917, because she was younger than my great-grandpa, which makes me 5th generation Mexicano on his side. This is my grandpa's side, because his father, the original Don Juan, came during the time of the Revolution, and he was born in Reynosa. So that's where he was born. But he was Vasquez. He was Zamora. My great-grandpa was Vasquez Zamora.
So, how do you feel? I mean, you kind of knew you were a mix of everything. Right?
Oh yeah, my mom was...
Yeah, in particular, how do you feel about this African blood that you have. You kind of already knew the indigenous and the European, right?
I knew that.
But the African and the Asian was surprising to you,
yes.
right? So, first with the African, I mean, what do you think? And where do you go from now? What does it mean for you?
I'm like, I have so many questions. That's why I bought the movie Roots.
Okay.
I have so many questions. And then I bought Henry Louis Gates Jr. series, African American Lives 1 and 2.
Okay.
And find out, like, where exactly are we from, then, if the African roots are there, like, which part of the sub-Saharan area. Because right now I have no idea where that's at right now.
Right.
So I'm in the process of still trying to figure that part out.
Okay. And what do you think that we, like, as an institution, as a university, or even our department, Mexican American Studies, like, do you think that there's a gap in our studies that we need to address, or how do we address these issues? How would you like to be addressed?
Well, since I found out this year, surprisingly, I figured, like, since there were so many Mexicans that were mixed with slaves that I had no idea about, they said, like, the majority of the Africans landed in Veracruz at the time. And if the one-drop rule occurs for them, mostly all of them would be black, because that was the main business area, was Veracruz, with all the imports of all the Africans coming in, being checked there, and then being sold there. So it would be nice to know.
Yeah, so it would be nice to know. We should be teaching this in our classes, or we should have coursework, or what personally, what would you like to see?
Well, since I found this out, maybe more influence of, yes, the majority of Africans were also in Mexico, learn that part, because a lot of Mexicanos are like, they don't know.
Right.
So, but I think now it's time that I'm learning that we should add that, not like drastically influence about the African Americans, but let the people know that there was also slaves in Mexico, and Veracruz was the main port at that time. And how we're influenced by the dances, like the La Bamba was around since even the 1600s, according to the research done by Henry Louis Gates Jr. when he went to this fandango. And he saw the zapateados of the dances, and they mentioned how it was influenced by that, the instrumental, and they just added more to it.
If more Latinos did their DNA test and realized this influence, even in blood, not to mention the greater, tremendous cultural influence, historical influences, right? What do you think? Do you think that could have some kind of impact on African American and Latino relations in the United States, for example? What do you think?
Well, it may not happen over time, because, like, the civil rights took, like, years in the 60s and as well as the 70s. But if we let them know and have them know about the influence, it might get there. It's possible. It may take a long time, but it could happen if people actually take the time to do it and realize there's no clashing really between Mexicanos or African Americans or even Latinos, because we're all somehow connected.
Is there anything that you would like to add to what you've talked about here real briefly?
I'm just saying history is very important, And right now, as we're going, the U.S. is trying to whitewash it, as some evidence has shown. And it's time to put a stop to it.
Very good. Awesome, Christopher. Thank you so much for agreeing. I think that you may not realize how important sharing these stories are, It's a step to a greater understanding. So I appreciate your willingness to share your story, and, I wish you luck on your quest to get a better understanding of who you are and who Chicanos and Mexicanos are as a people, and how they too, fit into the African diaspora, right? Right. So, good work.
Thank you.
Awesome.